Hello, my name is Aaron Johnson. I started a company in Anchorage, Alaska called Red Dog Consulting LLC. We specialize in the deployment of public key infrastructure and related technologies, as well as hardware security modules. These can be leveraged to greatly improve your cybersecurity strategies and further secure your data. Our mission lately has been to remove the password from an environment altogether. Passwords are vulnerable to shoulder surfing, guessing, sticky notes stuck on a monitor, lots of different ways to grab a password from a user. The other challenge with passwords is the slow rotation rate. Passwords don't change very often. And the bummer with that is once a password does change, the hash that also gets affixed to a user account changes as well. Each time a password changes, so does the hash. So if you're only rotating passwords every 6 months, your hash is only rotating every 6 months. And both the password and the hash can be used to access an environment and do bad things. So today what we're looking at is how to speed up the adoption of a password-free solution to get into a network. We've looked at these, which are RFID cards. A lot of environments use them to access the physical side of an organization, so doors, elevators, and etc. And the use of a secure protocol that uses AES-128 symmetric keys to relay the information on this card to a door reader. These cards that we're looking at specifically are hybrid cards. They have the smart card chip right here, that's a contact chip, and then inside of here there's an RFID tag. In this case it's a MIFARE DESFIRE EV1 tag. And we're only using these because you can use a true one card solution to access logical and physical environments in your organization. This will help speed up the adoption of a password-free solution for your staff. And the way this works, let's have a look at this box. What we have here on the box is a little door, and securing the door is a Securitron M32 magnet. We have an EH400-k controller. This controls the door and also allows the reader to talk to the controller in the door. This side we have a programming modules for programming these door readers with these encryption keys. And then we have the key encoder, and this will encode your user cards. And on the far side we have our typical smart card sleds. And sleds are one solution if your laptops already don't come with internal smart card reader. So what we're going to do is look at creating custom keys that only you and your organization know, and add them to the door reader for the physical side. That's symmetric keys. These keys can get stored in tools like this ACS122L encoder. This little compartment back here has SIM cards, and these encryption keys get stored in the SIM cards. So all your operators, your staff that set up these access cards for your new hires, will not be privy to these keys, so they can remain secure. Once you've got all this programming side in place, you can run over with a card such as these that adds these symmetric keys to the door readers. Then you move to the logical side, where you use a card management solution. We're using the Versasec CMS, the S-Series, to contact the certificate authority, issue out a certificate for client authentication and secure email, which I'll talk about in a minute, onto this card. Private key gets created right on this card and never leaves it. So it's a very secure and very powerful solution. Secure email is also a wonderful thing that a lot of folks don't utilize. What it does is you can sign an email with your own certificate, and this verifies your identity. So email phishing attempts are basically a thing of the past once you've included S-MIME into your toolset for cybersecurity. So to get started, we'll just start with the physical side of things. We'll encode these keys. So to start, you take one of these hybrid cards with an RFID tag. In this case, again, it's MIFARE DESFIRE EV1, but I can work with HID solutions, secure solutions such as iClass SC and CIOS. And you pop open this .origin program. So we'll look at that now. So the first step is creating these custom keys, these symmetric keys for the card and the reader to do their communication. And this utility is created by .origin, and it's called Key ID Encoder. This is a solution that you can use with MIFARE, DESFIRE. HID has their own programming tool as well. But first step is to create a template. This software comes with a random number generator, which will create these keys that we're talking about here very easily and quickly. All you do is you name the template, hit this copy key, which will store the random numbers here that are stored up here in a clipboard. You apply them to the template and you just keep hitting copy and move down the line. It's very easy. So now you've got 3 unique keys, and you record these somewhere safe because you don't want to lose them. And then once you've got all those pieces in place, you can tweak the format here where you're doing a 26-bit, which is a facility code and a card number. Facility code typically can start with 100. Card number can be what you will. So we've already got our template up here, and we're going to encode our physical access side. So when we move over to our box, we've got the card with the RFID tag, MIFARE, DESFIRE in this case, ready on our reader. And all your staff have to do is hit this one button, okay? You just check the values. They're ready to encode card number 002 is all set. We've got the keys already applied to the reader, everything, all the prereqs are in place, and you just hit encode. All right, we've got a successfully encoded card here. Now, this solution that I'm using uses the Genetec Security Center for tracking all these credentials and the rules that go along with it. And so all I've done ahead of time is set up a user called guest admin and recorded the card number 002 and the facility code and then the appropriate access rules that will allow them into our door. So we can just do a quick test. Okay, so cards without the keys, don't make it beep. Okay. That was the SCB card. We just added these custom keys to that reader. Cards without the keys don't beep. This card does have these keys now. And what we're doing is contacting the Security Center, saying, here's my numbers, can I get into the door? Security Center said, yes, you're set. So we have now encoded the physical access side of things. The next step is to move over to the logical side. We need to get a certificate and issue it out to this card, well, to the user, and create the private key on the card itself. Again, the private key will never leave this card. So you just slide it into your reader, and you power up your card management solution. This is the Versasec S-Series. Okay. To get into this S-Series, you need an operator card. This is my card that I use for privilege accounts. This would be my domain admin account, but I use it also for operating this VSEC series. This is all a demonstration system, so you'd do role-based access control on your own to make sure that your staff don't have admin rights over this card management system. But it's quite easy to track this thing. And the reason is the VSEC system comes with a flowchart here. Okay, as soon as you've come up with a blank card, which we're doing here, for this demo, you indicate which reader that the card is plugged into. In this case, it's a Gemalto USB smart card reader. And this serial number on the card gets added into the database. Okay. And you can also switch between different cards, and so you can encode a couple at once. One thing to note though is you'll never see the reader that you're entering the system in up here as an option, so you won't overwrite the tokens that get you into the card management solution, which is a nice feature. So all cards that haven't been recorded in the database start out as unregistered. First step is to register it, and then you issue out your certificates. So I've already set up the certificate template on my certificate authority. This is an internal certificate authority, so once it's set up, there's no cost to issuing out these certificates for you. And you quite simply just hit the execute button. And that's what we're doing now. the system will ask for your authentication, and that is the PIN that allow you into the card. You get 5 attempts to enter that PIN or else the card gets bricked. And that is another security approach. So I entered the PIN in incorrectly once. Let's do it again. Okay, so we were successful. So the flow chart is taking a couple of things here. Like I said, it's going to remove the default admin key on the card, scramble it and encrypt it and store it in the database so none of your users will actually know the admin key. And then it registers and cleans out the cards, any issued certificates it removes and revokes, etc. Then it pulls up this find users, contacts, and groups box. This is very familiar. And you look for the user that's been set up ahead of time. In this case, his name is guest admin, or her name. And you hit OK. So on this card, you've got an enrollment agent certificate. And you can use this certificate to enroll on behalf of users. Okay, so I'm contacting my certificate authority and I'm getting a client authentication certificate, which allows the application policy of secure email to be in play as well. And all this aligns with the assurance policy. That's a high security assurance policy. These all get set up ahead of time. So we're actually looking at once the system's been deployed and you're issuing out cards. Typically with something that is supposed to be the security should require some kind of authentication mechanism, whether it's an in-person meeting or documentation, etc. So you know the card that you're issuing out to will actually be for the user who is requesting it. Okay, so we have been successful. Okay, we've issued out the certificate for client authentication and secure email. Okay, the last step is to assign a PIN. You can do this in person, or this software often also offers a self-service kiosk. So you can just direct people to a website and allow them to change the PIN. So the next step is to create a PIN that the user knows. And like I said, you can do this directly at the time of issuance right here through this, pass the user a keyboard or direct them to a self-service kiosk if they're out of state or outside of the location you're issuing card. So you just move the icon over to active and hit execute. You'll be asked again for the PIN. Okay, I'm going to obfuscate it. So it's going to ask, are you sure you want to initiate the card? You say yes. And then it's going to require your validation code, that PIN, to get into the operator token. And then you set your new user PIN. And this is where you pass the keyboard over to your user. Make sure it's the same, of course. You can do other things like force change at first use, so on and so forth. All sorts of flexible security approaches you can do to just getting these cards to your users. So we're good. We now have a card here that will allow access to the building through the physical side, the RFID chip, and access to the computer network, logical side, all without passwords. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is the use of mobile devices have become very, very important for a user or a staff member's productivity. So before you completely eliminate the password from the user account, you also have to issue out a certificate for mobile device use to get into assets like Exchange, your email system, files, etc. So once you've got that in place, you can completely remove the password. And you can do that by setting the smart card required for interactive logon flag on the account, as well as implementing a fine-grained password policy that will rotate the hash of the user account on a very frequent basis. So every day, if you're really in a high security environment, or every week. And this will cover several vulnerabilities that passwords bring, that static hash, the static password. And also you can use the signing, encryption, and all the other pieces that a PKI and certificates can give you. So, card is all programmed in. Now the one step that you do have to do for this demo only, because in a real world example, you just be plugging this into the laptop or the USB card reader, but you do have to import these new certificates into, for our purpose, into this demo, we're going to just import them into the user store, and I'm just doing that with a net stop and net start command of the certificate propagation service. And that's going to bring all the certificates into a local copy so I can use this card now to authenticate across the network. And as we do that, we are setting ourselves up for a demo where we're just going to look at a remote desktop connection with this account guest admin. Okay. All right, we're set. So let's open up just remote desktop. Let's go into our server here. And the system here, since it's just been added, takes a little bit of time. Also, I've got like 10 cards plugged into this for the demo unit, so it won't be as slow on your system, because emulation of these things can add another layer of slowness. So basically you come in with that pin that was just set, and I'll move out the way so you can see it. But what you're doing is, since this is a healthy PKI in my environment, I've got a certificate that indicates this server that I'm accessing via the fully qualified domain name is whom it says it is. It presents a certificate with NLA. And then you start doing the certificate-based authentication piece in the server, and the profile gets blah, blah, blah. You're off to the races. In order for the use of this card and this solution over to the email side of things, you would then use the S-MINE component in a program like Outlook and trigger it to sign certain emails. And that does also require a PIN to access the private key on that card. So that is basically it. The one thing that you can also do with this system, since your staff is going to require this card to get throughout the building, they'll have to pull it from the workstation. Well, with a couple of GPOs strategically set, unplugging the card also locks whatever workstation you logged into it with. Okay, so just a final test. We've got our physical side of things done with the card, and then you've just entered the building, you've sat down at your workstation, you've plugged the card in, and you're ready to go. So this is a hybrid solution in that the cards have the contact chip, your RFID tag, and you just issue out these two pieces of physical credentials, then logical credentials. The user sets the PIN, and then you assign the PIN, and then you have a little bit of time where the user still has a password, where you deploy your mobile device manager based certificates via Intune, Jamf, a whole bunch of things. Solutions will do this for you, and then test that, and you can completely remove the password. And there goes a whole bunch of vulnerabilities that you had previously and you don't have as well. If you're interested in this solution, this whole kit is mobile. I can bring it over to your environment for a demonstration and a further analysis. Again, my name is Aaron Johnson. Work with Red Dog Consulting LLC in Anchorage, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you.